any reasons or excuses, but anybody else who's been paying attention has noticed I've been doing a lot of work on the backup of poop and debris inside of my body. I know I promised everybody I'd be here at 5:30, but I don't make money doing lives. I don't make money doing any of the stuff I do for healing, especially the Star Child Walking Human Roads and Our Sacred Duty album, which is strangely being accredited, get out, to a white woman that I don't know anything about. So if you come across my music, Our Sacred Duty, being accredited to some white woman named Alice, she didn't make Our Sacred Duty. That was mine. I made that music. And she wasn't hashtagging like I was. I was. I don't care when she came around. I've been around for a long ass time. And her music is not really my skilo. So please stop associating my music with hers. So, without further ado, I'm going to start some music here from my 3 down, 6 to go. And it'll be in the background. And now, at first, I was so angry when I was sitting there thinking about getting the pain out about Eric. And I calmed myself down. And I hate that I did that. I have a good way of calming myself down and releasing trauma in such strange ways. One of the worst ones is forgetting how bad something hurt. When I met Eric, nobody worried, iced coffee. When I met Eric Odom, I was 20 years old. By the time that I was 20, I'd already been married and divorced. I'd already experienced a significant amount of abuse. I remember I was waiting at the Jam Van bus stop in North Chicago at NTC training base. I was waiting at the Jam Van bus stop for where everybody waited to go get taken to Gurney Mall. Eric pulls up in a red Maxima, right? And he's like, "Hey, you need a ride?" And I don't know if everybody knows my background story, but I am one of those Gen X people who went around with undiagnosed autism. And no matter how many times people hurt me, I always try to find a reason to trust, especially if they seem nice. He was in his uniform, his white, summer whites, not dress whites. And so I was like, okay, there's this dark skinny guy in a red Nissan, and he's wearing dress white, well, not dress white, but summer whites. And it was in the summer. I hadn't been out boot camp long. And he just rode on his window and asked me who I wanted to ride. I swear there's something about autistic people or southern people who just give off this vibe of, like, I know this crazy chick will probably take a ride for me not knowing who I was. And people who have grown up with unprotected, looking for protection all their life, will understand exactly where I'm coming from when I'm talking about this. Sometimes you end up putting yourself in a worse situation simply because you're looking for someone to help protect you. And then you fall for anything that happens, or any man, or any entity that could offer you a chance to come out of fight or flight. And me, I had never been out of fight or flight since, I don't know, 8 months. That's when all the abuse started happening. 8 months. I can't remember a time where I wasn't in fight or flight. So he offers me this ride, right? I take the ride. And I think he took me to the mall. We went to, I don't know if we ended up at Gurney Mall. But I know that night, he got me drunk on Hennessy while I was underage. And I know we had now what was, I guess back in the day they called that consensual. And I guess it was consensual on my part because I wanted him to like me. And I was already drunk and so many people had done it to me before. So why not just let him do it too? And maybe he'd keep me safe. myself. I'm not calling Eric a rapist. I'm not calling him that at all. I'm saying that he was someone. The door's open, sweetheart. No. He was someone who was used to and quite willing to take up advantage of young ladies who were he was from Florida. He's a Florida man. He knew how to recognize black women who had been in abusive situations. He grew up with a black woman, his mother, who had been through abusive situations. And Jerusha, don't think I haven't gotten to you yet. I'm not sparing anybody anymore. I used to spare people for the sake of my children. And because of these same people, I have no relationship with my children. Both of my children despise me. I didn't raise them. They were taken, and probably rightfully. Who was I? I couldn't even take care of myself. But that's skipping forward into the story. I was, so from that moment on, I was in a relationship with Eric. I know every red flag in the world was being thrown at me at the time. I remember. But all I could focus on was his quiet confidence. And that he seemed so sure about life. And that he was older than me. And he knew better. I gave myself for the first time wholly after my marriage in faith and trust to Eric Owen. Not knowing I was autistic still at this time. Not knowing that it is so hard to explain to people autism unless you've experienced it or you live someone with it. We want to love. We want to trust. We don't have an auto default to not trusting strangers. And I wanted to trust and love Eric. And I wanted babies to love. And I thought for sure that I'd found everything when I found him. Because he was in the military like my dad was. My first rapist. He was confident and all that stuff. And I thought, wow, what a good person. Maybe this time, right? And so within about a month of us dating, I got pregnant. Within a month of us dating. It was during that month of dating that I got pregnant. When I found the LES, it's kind of like a check stub. And Erica told me he had no children at the time. He told me he had one. I'm sorry. He told me he had one child, a daughter. And that was the only child he had. And I believe that. He told me he had no children other than his daughter. And so I got really excited about this baby too, because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to be experiencing something, that, he hasn't done like a lot. And this is my first time. When I saw that LES, I realized that he was paying child support for 3 children. Not only that, Eric was still married to Makiba, a woman he met in Virginia. And that's a whole story. That's a whole different, I like to keep them separated. So, he lied to me the entire time. I thought that for sure he was single and that he had one child. This is the first uncovering of lies. Believe me, it gets deeper and worse. And so first uncovering lying was that I found out about 3 children and a wife. He cried. He set me down in his red Maxima and explained to me how Makiba was going to the bank every midnight on his paydays and draining his account, how she was just this horrible woman, how he never loved her, how he married her out of convenience, and how he was in the process of divorce, but he didn't have enough money. I was 20. I believe it. I was what my family used to call green. My brother Chris used to look at me and say, girl, you so green, I don't know how you gonna make it. And if no truer words have been spoken. Girl, you so green, I don't know how in the world you gonna make it. Brother, it was painfully. And so I was pregnant, and he was I found out about that. We argued. It was during this time a sexual assault happened at my school. I told Eric about what happened with my teacher, Petty Officer McSell, on Great Lakes MTC. And my husband told me that it's like a rite, not husband at the time, boyfriend at the time, so Eric told me it was a rite of passage, and that I should kind of just get over it because it happens to all girls that, most girls that had already been through that. And I told him about my history, about how much that happened to me. And he reinforced that it was probably something I was doing. He used that information to make me even more dependent on him because I felt like no one else would ever love me. And so I continued in this relationship with Eric. I miscarried our first child due to stress. Eric was an E5, I was an E2 or E3. I paid for every single date. That's how green, because I've never been one of those people that believed that love was financial or something that had to be reciprocal. I did not mind paying for every single date because I'm autistic and I'm your friend. And I figured if you can't afford it, why wouldn't I pay for it? If I love you, why wouldn't I pay for it? That's the logic in an autistic brain. We're not predators, and so we don't have predator logic. And by 20, I was already trained to listen to men. I miscarried the first baby alone in his barracks room while he was working at the gym on the base at Great Lakes NTC. He caught a second job. Not because of me, but because he had started having troubles with his maxima. And it was a stick shift. And when he got it back to his wife at the time, she'd had the transmission in the trunk. I don't know how that worked out. And so I called him, and he just, it wasn't my first miscarriage. It wasn't the first loss of a baby I'd ever experienced. And it wasn't the first time I'd ever experienced one alone because of Lorenzo Lamont Leary. I'd never I'd experienced losing a baby before. Intentionally, because I had a late term abortion when I was young and didn't know better. Autistic and gullible. Nobody ever really believed me because they're like, how could so much crazy stuff happen to one person and nobody noticed? But how many children out there don't you notice? Why would you think I'd be noticeable as anything other than prey? So, the second pregnancy, it ended up being a tubal pregnancy. I went to the hospital in Great Lakes, and they sent me home with that tubal pregnancy and told me that to come back later for surgery. They were going to schedule me that tube burst. And then I found out, probably when I was 30, that you don't send women home that have tubal pregnancies. That's like an emergency. Yeah, I didn't know that. So I thought that they sent me home and that the doctor was just good and okay, that he knew what was best because he said the pregnancy was in the tube. He was going to schedule a way to have that taken care of and I would be safe. I went back to my barracks, and 2 days afterwards, he didn't even put me on no restrictions for working out or anything. And so I went to the gym over at the base, just to be close to Eric because he was working there in the afternoons, and he was also flirting with a lot of girls. And it was something I felt like I deserved because I lost the first baby. And maybe if I didn't lose the first baby, maybe he would have loved me. And that's what my brain was telling me, even after all the things I knew about him. And so, I went to the gym and then I passed out in my bedroom. My tube exploded. I ended up in the hospital. I had a, I was, I think it was my right fallopian tube. I lost at the time. So they removed my right fallopian tube. At the time, the doctor in the military discovered that I also had endometriosis. This was back in the early 2000s, maybe 2000, maybe 2000 actually. And endometriosis wasn't really talked about a lot. Now that I find out more and more about endometriosis, the more and more I'm angry. That doctor gave me an appellation. He didn't. I mean, I was military property. I didn't have any say. He saw the endometriosis, so he went in there and burned every piece of endometriosis out there in my body that he could find, which is why one of the big reasons now I can't poop. But I digress. It was a temporary solution. I became pregnant again for the third time. Now, this is probably within 6 months of me and Eric have been together. I've been pregnant 3 times. I didn't mention the phone calls from other girls that I received in his bedrooms when there were still like phones you could pick up. There was a Keisha. There was a Candace. There was so many girls that called and told me they were sleeping with him. And that didn't make me pull away from him. That made me grab onto him harder because everybody wanted him. So I needed to hold on to him, right? Because he was a good man. Because everybody else wanted him. When you don't teach your children to love properly or how to love properly, you get that type of response. Like they treat you worse, and you try to do more to make up for being treated bad. And so I gave him my debit card. I needed my debit card one night when I was stuck at a party where a bunch of people were getting drunk and I was tipsy and I was trying to call Eric and he didn't answer. I ended up having to spend a night at that place because I couldn't afford to get a gym there or had money to pay somebody to get me home. And I was gay raped. And people look at me all day long and say, how did that happen? We learned that it hurts more to fight. And also, I was drunk to pass out. And I didn't realize I used to drink to pass out to try to just forget all of the betrayals. I mean, literally, mom shot me in the neck up here and tried to take my life when I was 3. Dad started molesting me when I was 8. The military started screwing me over immediately. My first husband was in high school. I knew nothing. And so I felt that if I held on tighter to Eric, if I showed him I was dedicated and I loved him more, it would work. And that dedication ended up to me being left in a situation where I had no debit card. So like at the time there were taxis. To be able to call and get away from the situation, I needed dangerous. And he wasn't picking up the phone. Oh, let's see. Yeah, he wasn't picking up the phone. So, yeah. It was after that incident where I think we had the incident a couple of days later where we threw the chair while we were in class. We don't remember. We kind of had like a psychotic break after that time. We had a psychotic break. That psychotic break led us to being taken to the naval-based mental health hospital. The first doctor she talked to told her that maybe she was just a bitch. And I'm not saying that's what he said. He told me that maybe I was just a bitch. And he diagnosed me with just an indistinguishable personality disorder, which they use to process a lot of women and men out for anything they wanted to. They just said personality disorder. Their personality doesn't align with my belief system, so they have a personality disorder. What's funny is he was right, but he didn't know how extensive the personality disorder was. He just saw one of my personalities, Gigi, who protected us and told her she was a bitch. That's my 3-year-old personality. It's okay. It's not okay. I can't keep saying that negative self-talk to myself because it doesn't really lead to a seismic release. It's not okay. While I was in the hospital, I gave Eric my debit card again because he came and he begged me and told me that he needed gas. He wasn't able to make it to work. He couldn't get his uniforms clean. He had every excuse in the world to need my debit card again. And even after all the danger and everything that proven danger that he put me in, having my debit card the first time, I gave it to him again in the hospital because everybody wanted him, right? So I should try to hold on to him because that's what love was. If everybody else wanted him, then that was what I should hold on to. So it didn't matter what I had to do to keep him. Because Eric was going to keep me safe. While I was in the mental health hospital at North Chicago VA, which is now James Lovell VA, I came in contact with David Billingsley. I came in contact with a nurse named Derek, and I came in contact with Lucius Campbell. 3 men. Lucius Campbell was in anger management. David Billingsley was my social worker, and Derek managed my med. All of those great men had access to read my record and what I was there for. And they also had access to read all the things I had disclosed to my therapist because records weren't really sealed at the time. So Lucius made sure that when I was that I had to be in anger management, that it was a requirement for me to get out of the VA to take his anger management classes. And it was there that Lucius Campbell started abusing me as I was making poppies. You know how they have the disabled veterans. And I didn't even tell you about the fact, let me go back one. I was transferred from the military hospital on base, the Naval Hospital, that I was originally at, and taken to the VA hospital because a doctor at the VA, not the VA, but at the on the military base said, I think we should process her out. I think she has a lot of stuff going on, and we need to medically discharge her so she can get some help. So that's the only reason they felt comfortable transferring me to the veteran hospital while I was active duty. You don't hear about a lot of that. I wish I could find the one other girl that was stationed there with me. She was a white girl. Her name was Sarah. She was stationed at the same time. She was vegan, but I got her to eat some Popeyes. She was really cool. I hope she lived. She had went through a lot of stuff. But she got processed out the military and got a medical discharge and stuff. Me, they saw me, and I'm black, and my black body is already overly sexualized. Even if I had on it doesn't matter. So Lucius let David know that it was free game. And then David let Derek know it was free game. So sometimes every day, sometimes multiple. And nobody believes it because they're thinking, how can the VA hospital do that? Do you remember what the VA used to be at? Do you remember those horror stories came out about patients rotting in their bed? There weren't security cameras. There were not escorts. This is not the VA you guys are thinking about. Everybody's like, that couldn't have happened. The VA has cameras. They have security. Back in 2000, if you Google the VA in the 2000s, it was the Wild Wild West, honey. There was no regulations. There was no regulations.
Look at us. People think we going nuts. But sorrow me, we never really gave a fuck.
And so, it didn't really matter. After I was passed around like a rag doll at the VA, I became pregnant.
I wonder if the chosen wishing or wishing what I dreamed, that life and death is just a
I also was having sex with Eric at the same time too, because when he come to visit me, that was kind of one of his demands. Like, if I can't be a mental health patient and still give him a blowjob or have sex with him, then I wasn't a good girlfriend. And I realized that mental health patients can't get consent to sexual relationships. I didn't really consider myself mentally ill at the hospital. I just considered it was just another place in territory that I deserved because something I did as a child made me bad. And that's why Daddy started touching me at 8 months. So, during this mix-up, this craziness, I became pregnant with my daughter. Now, by this time, I skipped a lot of miscarriages. This miracle was my 13th pregnancy. I had 12 miscarriages. 12 miscarriages and 2 abortions. By the time I was 22, I wasn't even 22. I was 21. I turned 22 in December. I found out I was pregnant with Miracle at the VA hospital. They thought I had appendicitis, and so they were like, okay, we're gonna take you to the emergency because my stomach was hurting and I didn't know why. And so they took me down and they gave me an ultrasound on my stomach. And then they found that, and they gave me like a full blood work and everything. And I was like, cool. And then it came back, I was pregnant. But the problem with that is I was on a locked ward. A locked ward in 2000 is not the locked ward it is in 2025. So I was questioned. I was questioned by the VA staff first about who could possibly be the father, who that I had sex with any staff members. I named 3. The military then took over the investigation. The Navy did. The Navy immediately declared my pregnancy an emergency because the VA suspected it might be another tubal pregnancy. The VA fully intended for me to come back. Even in my medical record, my therapist, Robin, God bless her, put in there that she fully expects me to come back after the surgery or whatever they do, the treatment for the pregnancy. But the military lied to the VA. They weren't taking me out of there to treat the pregnancy. They were taking me out of there because what they did wasn't even okay. Putting me there wasn't okay. And me getting pregnant there, well, that was even worse. I served under Master Chief Rourke, and I know the terrible things that he wrote in my military record. Master Chief Rourke. I remember watching him cross the street when I was in the military young before, just watching Master Chief Rourke cross the street and thinking about all the humiliation he put me through while I was in the service and wishing that something would hit him. And that's how I started to feel like I was a bad person for wishing that. And I wasn't. Master Chief Rourke was racist. He was unkind. And he blamed the race on me like every other man. Like, what did you do to defend yourself? Master Chief Rourke was one of the first people who knew I had DID. But you know what he did? He's another story. Master Chief Rourke of Great Lakes NTC in 2000. Don't ever think I forgot your name. And don't ever think that the only thing that protected you from being hit by that car when you were across the street from the tech school was Ashura herself. She told me it would make me a terrible person. She said, later in life, I feel bad. I'm still waiting for the moment where I feel bad. Also, this song right here, I wrote for my daughter. Not because I want her back in my life. People may not understand that part. I wrote it for her to let her know that no matter what, I love her. But through her father, she has caused my soul so much damage. I don't blame my children. It wasn't her fault. That's why we're here about Eric. I know your pain now that I'm older. I know you did the best for me. You could not predict my destiny or the souls of depravity. So please love me from heaven. I promise the Lord I'll learn my lesson. No matter the life you choose to lead, you are still a queen to me. I can see that finally. My mama was alive when I had my girl. She was a product of confusion, but still my world. In my heel pain, I followed mom just the same. I gave my girl to her dad to keep me sane. The cycle is a present show. I have a grandson that I'll never know. If I could take back my last words to her, the cruelest things you ever heard. Please hear me, ancestors. A broken clock is still right twice. My son and my daughter extend the light. Even if never speak again, baby, I know you are the best mom you can be. And precious memories, so miracle. I will love you from heaven. I promise the Lord I'll learn my lesson. No matter what life you choose to lead. And this is my children are the reason why you are such a test. I initially started. I do not ask for your forgiveness. Wanting my poems to become music because my poems are written and like my father's poetry easily lost. But the music will leave on. And the moment they finally feel that in the pit of their soul that I've been trying to explain to them, I don't want them to hurt. I don't want them to hurt. Nothing that happened is their fault at all. This is about the adults at the time. So, they pulled me out of that VA hospital and I ended up back on active duty. Still I pop up at your side. I watch you flee from the games we play. Yeah, I'm the monster. I came close to. I decided at that time, even not knowing who Miracle's father was, because I didn't know. There were 4 men there with the possibility. 3 who were, well, 4 who were abusing me apparently, because you can't get this in the hospital. It doesn't matter. So there could have been 5. But I ruled out the 5th one because the date didn't match. And I wish so bad that was my princess's baby. That was the guy that I wish that it was his baby so bad. I wish I would have married him when I was younger. I thought he was a good man. And as I grew up and watched him grow, I know he is. But I was so wrapped up in Eric at the time that I couldn't see the forest for the trees. So I decided at this time that I was going to do everything I can to make my situationship work with Eric. No, bullshit. I decided I decided I was going to do everything I can to make my situationship work with my fucking uterus. It wasn't Eric. Eric interfered a lot with that. I decided to concentrate my energies and to send love to that baby Even in my stressed out soul, when her daddy gave me chlamydia while I was pregnant, he gave me chlamydia while I was pregnant, and I had to go embarrass him. All of my doctor's appointments, he never showed up for one. I didn't realize at the time, but Eric had already had 5 kids. It wasn't just 3. There were 2 more I hadn't known about. So I was forced to sign some things when in order to get base housing. I was very wide and pregnant, and I didn't have anywhere to set up or nest for me and my daughter. And the military said, we can get you base housing tomorrow if you can't get anybody at the VA hospital hurt you. And I was like, well, I don't want to recant it. They were like, well, just say it was consensual. The ones we call heroes, from soul to and I didn't read what they wrote. They made me fall from grace for fame. I'm not stupid, and I'm never going to say that about myself again. I'm gullible and I'm trusting. I wasn't stupid. Captain James Lovell Hospital and Grand Manstaff Hospital are the only 2 people who have access to my medical records right now. If I try to talk to another VA hospital and have them look at the craziness, I get in trouble. I've gotten warnings. I've been labeled a disabled and disruptive veteran every time I try to get them to produce my medical records for me. I wrote to the military records. I wrote to the Navy. They keep saying my personnel record doesn't even exist. I have no military records. I have no personnel records. I have no military medical records, and I have all the proof of that. And I don't know why. I don't know why I don't have any records. But I'm pretty sure it was all to help Master Chief Rourke and whoever else was in charge of Great Lakes Naval Station in 2000. I kept a green notebook of what Chief McSell was doing to me at FCA school. They told me it didn't count. It couldn't be accurately dated, even if I wrote in the dates. But this story is about Eric. All this, though, happened in the midst of Eric. All of this shit was going on with Eric. And what part of this did Eric help me through? Not one part. We were pregnant with, I was pregnant with Miracle. We went to Florida to visit his mom for, my birthday's New Year's Eve. And so it's Christmas break, we went to Florida to visit his mom. I started bleeding right after his son, Kari, punched me in the stomach because he found out I was pregnant with Miracle. I'd met Kari once before. I forgot that. I met his 2 other kids before, but his son punched me square in the damn stomach. And I had some bleeding after that, right? And I called my doctor, who I was seeing a specialist. I'll never forget Dr. Hartman. And he told me to have bed rest and just relax. And he was like, we've been through miscarriages. We're going to make this work, just have faith. And so I was on some type of medication at the time to help me sustain the pregnancy. I told Eric about the bleeding, and he went to the club for New Year's. He expected me to get dressed in high heels and pretty clothes and be sexy and be ready to go to the club. And I was a party pooper because I couldn't. During my entire pregnancy with Miracle, during the first couple months, I drank. I drank because my significant other only wanted to go to clubs, and I needed to be there to be loved, right? Because if I didn't show up for him, he was going to go sleep with someone else like Donisha and Waukesha. But the worst betrayal, I think, on that birthday was finding out about Ayanna Thomas and finding out that she's still falling for his same fucking shit. She'll open her legs for that nigga any day. You see, while I was in Florida with his parents, Eric got a call from Ayanna Thomas, who was also in the military.
Brothers turn to doughboys.
Not only was she in the military, by this time Eric was a recruiter. Not a recruiter, but a trainer, an RDC, one of the drill sergeants in the Navy. He was one of the recruits. She was one of the recruits he trained. She was further along pregnant than I was. She had her daughter in April. I had Miracle in August. So he'd already knew that Ayanna was pregnant. Around the same time all this confusion was going on, these rapes, this abuse was going on with me. But instead, he decided to keep sticking his raw penis into anything that moved.
Now take back your box of shadows. We're done with what you
and he got me pregnant at the same time as Ayanna. Then I only found out this year that he had a triple hit that year. He had another child named Melody. So he had Ayanna's daughter, he had Miracle, and he had another child named Melody, all in 2001. I was so the unnosy girlfriend and just wanting to be loved, and it was during this time I became nosy. I started doing girl investigations. You know, I paid all the phone bills. Why not get the numbers sent to me? By the time we left North Chicago, Illinois, and we were both stationed in Virginia, we should have no longer been together. Any normal person. I went into labor with my high-risk pregnancy. My high-risk pregnancy required a cyclage. The cyclage didn't happen until late in the pregnancy. And even with the cyclage, the military wouldn't grant me housing until I was willing to agree to their terms. And the only person I had that was supposed to be in my corner, no family. Remember, Mom shot me. My dad, at that time, he was having another family with his new significant other, Annette Jackson. He chose her. And I can't say I'm mad about it because it kept me from being molested more. And my mother completely on crack. So the only person I really had at the time was Eric. And I remember thinking I was fucked. But I remember talking to that baby all the time and telling them, this is not your fault. I remember filling the tub up when I was pregnant with Miracle. And I remember slitting my wrist the right way. It still scars. I don't know how I came out of it. I swear this on my soul. I don't know how I came out of that. I remember the water looked like it was running with blood. In the ground. The towel in the bathroom, not even like real towel, it was military housing. It had like trails of blood going down. And I remember looking at the blood trails of that and the water that had splashed over and going down. And the first thing that came to my mind is I need to clean this up. I cut my wrist when the two come falling down the right way. Now, at the time, I didn't understand I had DID. It wasn't Sabrina who was longing for that death. It was Gigi. By the time we left North Chicago, our personalities were split into, we had at least 14 personalities by the time we left that North Chicago VA. So, with us, the left hand never knew what the right hand was doing. Sabrina could be loving all day one day, and then the next day you'll talk to her and she act like she don't know you or want to cut you. At that time, she had no idea she had DID. And that there were other personalities that had completely different opinions from hers. Strong opinions. Strong opinions to the fact that I decided to have a baby without their consent because they knew more than I did about our life, and they did not want a baby because they didn't love kids. They understood the nature of our existence, the nature of who we were, and they were scared. They were terrified. They were terrified, and so that's why they tried to kill us. And I'm not mad. I'm hurt that we were that scared. Eric was spending the night at Darnisha's house that day. I woke up, well, he spent the night that night. I woke up that morning and cleaned up the blood and stuff. And then I was like, I didn't do it right. I took the narcotics I'd received for an accident I'd had, and I took a bottle of vodka to a motel. First I called Eric, and he didn't answer. And then I called Darnisha. How small is that? I called Darnisha to beg her to give me my man back. I called some bitch to beg me for a fucking man. And I didn't feel any of that at the time. All I felt was survival. I can't survive. My baby won't survive. We can't survive without help because we're incapable of doing normal things like remembering the poop, remembering what happens, remembering our day, remembering anything. Because we weren't normal, we felt. And because our family made sure to reinforce that. My back hurts. And he was like, see, this is why he doesn't love you. He said it's because you do stuff like this. Well, apparently, Erica called Darnisha and told her I was being dramatic, like going to the hospital, going to a motel. He told her when he was leaving her house, I was being dramatic, and that he had to go and make sure his child was okay, because this was only his second child. Of course, with Darnisha, it's always just his second child, right? That man looked me in the eye and told me he didn't love me. And I begged him to stay. Because I thought there was something wrong with me. Don't be surprised when she looks in your eyes. You're okay, she's all divine. Following her into I knew he would never protect me and my children. When I went to the movie theater one night with me and Cindy, and there was this guy behind me, being very abusive to me because I was being stupid. I wasn't being stupid. I was trying to answer the text from Eric and show him what section we were sitting in. And the guy threatened to literally beat the baby out of me, and I told Eric about it, and he was like, just, oh well. I was praying for a miracle, and I got threatened to beat the baby out of me. My friend Cindy was ready to fucking fight. He just didn't care. I should have been gone then. But no. I didn't understand that I deserved better. I did not think that I deserved better. I was absolutely sure that I was paying for the crimes of whatever crime I committed when I was 8 months old that made my daddy do that to me. And I deserved every fucking thing I got. No one had ever told me differently. And you say, you always think that, put all this responsibility on, you're 18 now. All this responsibility, you should know how. How should you know how if nobody's ever taught you? What should I know how to do? I didn't even know how to poop. So before you look at anybody 30, 40, and I just assume they should know how to do something, always remember, you don't know who was their leader. And the people reflect leadership. My leadership didn't even teach me how to wash my ass properly. And then that was my default setting as I got older, because I knew I could keep people from touching me if I didn't smell good. It was a safety backup. If I wanted to go and have a good time, I didn't shower for 5 days. And you know there were still people who would. That's a different story. But that's it. I digress. We're stationed in Virginia together. And all he does is cheat. By this time, my DID is in full force, and I don't remember whether I'm coming or going most days. And I end up pregnant by Eric again. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to let this pregnancy go on. Then I went to Planned Parenthood, not Planned Parenthood, I went to, I forgot what that place was called in Virginia, but it was do not besmirch. I did not go to Planned Parenthood. I went somewhere else for options. I forgot the name of it. And they did an ultrasound, and they saw 2 developing sacs that early. I was maybe 11 weeks pregnant at the time. I was going to have twins. By the time I was pregnant, Eric had cheated on me so much in Virginia, it was just like waking up from going to sleep. It was like water. He stomped on toys beside my daughter's head. The police called. We were toxic for each other. I wasn't the toxic one. I just didn't understand what real love was, and I thought that was real love because all I'd ever been shown was toxic love. Then, while still with Eric, I tell him about the abortion, and he tells me if I ever abort another one of his children, he'll never forgive me and he'll never love me, and I was wrong, I was terrible, I was this horrible human. And I was like, this dude has enough kids. And then I knew I didn't have a lot of help. But I also skipped out on the fact that I let my father come back and live with me when we lived in North Chicago. The same man who molested me, I had around my daughter. I would love to say in my soul that I believed my father when he said he never touched my child. But I can't prove that because he touched children. But at that age, I thought that was welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by. Am I not doing any? Am I fucking up community guidelines? Okay, never mind. So, I'm reading the thing. So, guys, this is just a cigar. Please don't report me if you think I'm doing something weird, because this is a cigar. Herbal cigar. So, my father came to live with us when we were in North Chicago. And this is because Eric was pretty much not there. And I was getting ready to have a baby. And I didn't know what to do at all. I remember when I think about that house, that naval base housing in North Chicago, we had a plastic patio table and patio furniture in the living room. We had a bedroom set, and we had every single toy in the world for Miracle. I remember that first time I got her tax return for my daughter. She was born in August. I got her tax return for her in January. And it was one of the biggest tax returns I ever got in my life. It was like $2,000. I blew through like 1,600 $1,600 in one day on just stuff for her. She had so many little Kinsey-era dresses, and even and my father felt joy in it because he knew it was my first child, and Eric yelled at me because he was like, "You're spending unnecessary money. She's gonna get big." It didn't matter to me, but she was gonna get big. I wanted to remember. I wanted to remember something, anything, and because I took control at that time, I was able. Now I'm gonna put. Hey guys, just trying to make sure nobody reported me for anything weird. I'm not doing anything reportable. That's why I'm not on TikTok. If I was on TikTok, I'd already be kicked off. And suffer by design in science's cage. Eric knew I had no clue about anything in life. But he never paid attention that much because he had other things to do. I don't understand. Maybe I don't understand. And I don't ever want to understand how someone could be that cruel to a soul that would give them everything. When I got out of the mental hospital with Miracle, I looked at my bank account. I've been there for months, and my naval bank account was empty, right? And that man literally drove me to the bank acting like he didn't know where my money went. Like he didn't spend it all. And then he cried in the car and confessed that, oh, I spent it all, but it was for the divorce and for the car. And then he was at work, and I was sleeping in his barracks. I broke into his locked closet, and all I saw were tons of club pictures of him and other women. You know those club pictures back in the day? Everybody posing, you can take him in the club. He was just living the high life with my earnings while I was in the mental hospital, being passed around like a hot potato. We grow, we change, we rearrange, we make mistakes, then explain. And I didn't experience any rage then, guys. Remember? You know that? Because I turned off every nerve in my body. By that time in my body, I was all in fight or flight. I didn't start feeling pain and sensations in my body again until 3 months ago. I was a pain swallower. I swallowed it because as women, that's our job, right? And I was already a bad girl because my daddy told me I was. Well, he told me I was a good girl and that it was a family problem. And then my relatives all just kicked me out or called me the devil. And said I was pretending not to understand, and it was so simple I should understand. I guess a lot of autistic people from Gen X got that a lot. You should have known better. You should have known better is one of the most phrases. I've never said that to anybody. I've never said you should have known better to anybody. And I can honestly say that. Because how do you predict the behavior of other souls? This is all my original music in the background. This music song right here is about Sharir Brooks and Lamont Leary. This is even before Eric. This is about me having a late-term abortion when I was maybe 15 or 16. And my cousin marrying the guy and then threatening to beat me up in the bathroom. In high school, this girl was so much. I had to get this out of my soul. I didn't realize that all this stuff, and I didn't react then. Because if I reacted then, there was something in my head that told me I couldn't come back from it. I'm a Memphis born and bred. You have a pencil I heard her coming in the toilet seats. Memphis born and Memphis bred. Especially Gigi. And Chris would have been so disappointed that that's not what I did. I sat there and trembled as that large girl. The first introduction I'd ever had to Sharia was when I was in seventh grade, and I was on the bus, and when the bus was pulling in, I saw her grabbing Gloria Holland, who was another girl, by the hair and just bashing her face in with her hand fist over and over and over again. She was a terrifying. She was like, in Friday, like Big D, that was Sharia. It's like, who the fuck is gonna fight Big D? At the time, I didn't have no weight on me. I was 110 pounds soaking wet. That girl had at least 200, she was at least 200 pounds. 90 pounds on me. I could have did something criminal, or I could have bowed down. And what I did was bow down and submit. And I didn't feel it at the time. But I feel it so much more now. You know why? Because as an adult, I will no longer... Oh, what's that? Why? That's not my music. I need to pause. That is one of my favorite songs. But I honor other artists completely. So I go back to that because everybody says I might talk about Sharia a lot. She doesn't know that she was one of the cornerstones in the building block of my life. She doesn't know how big of a part she played in my investigation of the universe. Because after her, I blame myself from being afraid of fighting back for so long. And it felt like the first of many failures in my life. She was the first of many failures in my life to fight back. And what she did to me allowed other people to abuse me severely because I was afraid of what my response would be. Sharia opened the door for violence to scare me, and bigger people to scare me. And it didn't go away for a long time. And it caused so much harm to my psyche that for years I allowed big people to hurt me. I will never forget Sharia Brooks. She sings through my soul. Her and Lamont Leary and Lance Leary. They sing through my soul in such a way that I can feel a seismic release from my back. It's like I still have so much shit tied up. Remember Lance taking advantage of my sadness on the couch about the baby and everything. I don't think he listened to a word I said about that baby. All he wanted to do was put hickeys on my neck and prove to his brother I was some kind of whore as him and Sharia drove off. But like I said, another story. Let's get back to it. In Virginia, my father was still living with me. I was functioning. The light bulb was on, but nobody was ticking. I found out I found out that I was an escort while I was in the military. I was an escort on escorts.com. One of my personalities, Gigi, had decided to explore her sexuality in deeper ways. And so she decided to become an escort. And she figured she'd done it for free for so long. Why wouldn't she have fun and find a financial gain from it? So Gigi became Ebony and Lace. Ebony Lace. When you think about it, it's like gentle black. Lace is so fragile. And her name represented what she decided to be when she went into the escort industry. She was a submissive in the beginning. She was very strong, submissive. She wanted to learn about total power exchange. She wanted to explore within her soul what it feels like to have total power exchange in a consensual way.
To answer the question, what makes a man?
I'm having like those seismic releases down my lower back that hasn't had sensation in years. So if you see me leaning into it and I stop, don't worry about it. It's good. The truth lies deeper than we know. Trauma is stored in your body. Even when you think that you're getting away with not working yourself through it, you're not. Your body is storing it in your back. You have probably 20 pounds of shit in you. Literal shit. From shit that you just think about in your head that runs to your head back and forth, and you don't know what to do with it. That's my stomach right here. This is this line that pulsates. My vagus nerve was cut here. My belly button has been cut 6 or 7 times. I could talk about injuries, but I always try to avoid talking about Eric because of the severe damage to my soul. I became used to being treated like crap from a young age. Eric knew I was broken. He was older. He was more mature. He took a broken child, manipulated and used them in every single way. I became pregnant with our son. My father was still living with me because we were in Virginia. And my first thought was to get an abortion. Then I thought about what Eric said. And then I said, forget what Eric said. And I checked my bank account, and Eric had used all the money for... So I couldn't afford to get an abortion. I remember during that time, my dad was fighting for his veterans benefits. And when I was about 5 months pregnant, his veterans benefits came back. And he was like, it's still time to pay for that abortion. And we went and had an ultrasound with it. He found out it was a boy and that he wasn't urgent to have an abortion. I used to think it was sexism, but now I think it's something deeper than sexism on my dad. I don't know. I don't know why he was more willing to abort a girl than he was in a boy. But my pregnancy with Arrington was high risk as well. I had a cerclage. Anybody doesn't know about that, that's a stitch in your uterus. Eric was sleeping with everything that breathed. And I held on. Because autism and a beat down soul, anything that's familiar, everything new is so scary. Even during that time that I met new men and had new experiences and met new people who had great and shining shows. That were nicer than me than Eric. I felt like that was fake love. I felt somehow they were trying to manipulate me. They didn't really love me unless they were willing to hurt me, right? And so at every turn and every opportunity I had to leave Eric for a long time. I didn't. I just continued to take the abuse. I cheated. Then my father died. And I really needed Eric. This is when the knives came out. This is as much as I can do today. Standing now means they'll stand tall, understanding sacred law. The seismic releases are getting painful, and the story spans further than just an hour. But I was able to do this for an hour, and it gave me an hour of release. Through every heart the same blood flows. one collective human soul, each part making others whole. When they tear a child away, all our children feel the sway. When they hurt a mother's heart, all our hearts are torn apart. See the sacred, feel the one, through every daughter, through each son. Part 2 will come, and I will announce it. And I will tell you all about how my husband poisoned the well. Not my ex poisoned the well with me and my children. And the well probably won't be fixed until I die. It takes age and experience and growth and understanding to understand why and whens and the whats of things sometimes. But one day they will. One day, the programming they got from Eric and Jerusha. One day, the anger they feel at me at a time that I didn't even love myself or know myself. Maybe they'll have compassion. They don't have to forgive me. Ever. But I want them to sit in the world when I'm dead and blame themselves. And I talk about death a lot because it's not a attention-seeking thing. And back in 2019 of May, I had the death embolus. You know, that 1%er, the bilateral pulmonary embolus that shot through the right ventricle of my heart. I became septic. I was on a pain pump. I'm on blood thinners for life. During this time, I've had several surgeries on my abdomen. I have several adhesions inside of my body. Not one doctor wants to get to the root cause because I have stacking system errors. So they want to talk about one system error. Well, maybe we have to talk about the stacking system errors before we can figure out which one system error it is. I see it. Healing where I hurt so long, wishing flowing through my core won't be blocked here.